Hello Earth signs Capricorn, Taurus and Virgo. Welcome to the Aries full moon. You'll find the timestamps for your rising sign listed below. Hello Capricorn rising. Welcome to your horoscope for the full moon in Aries. This is happening on Friday the 29th of September at 7:58 p.m. if you're in the southern hemisphere with me. So if you are in my locale, look over to the eastern horizon at 7:58 and you'll see the moon will have just risen. It will be close to the horizon too, so it'll be quite big, and it'll be the bright, beautiful full moon in Aries at exactitude. So we're going to be talking about your home, your roots, your privacy, your sense of security, Capricorn rising. And this is a place in life that has been and is going to continue to receive much focus over the next period. So if we can think back to the 22nd of March, and if you can actually scroll down, if you're watching these on my website, you can go back to the first horoscope that I've got published in this lunar cycle. I'm wearing the same top. But we were talking about planting the seeds in our fourth house. We were talking about the new moon in Aries and what we hoped to see have happen in our idea of our sense of belonging, our idea of our relationship with our ancestry, our home environment where we feel safe and protected and nurtured. If you recall, a month after that, there was an eclipse in Aries. The dragon's head was still in Taurus, but it had just moved into Aries. It's like a changeover, a handing over of from one chapter to the next. And so it was April 20th, I think it was, that the first eclipse in Aries happened. And so there was some glimmers of how this part of your life is going through change, going through metamorphosis, going through maybe a feeling of like an insatiable urge or drive to get there or to get away from there. It's large stuff, but you'll find at this full moon on Friday, so this Friday night, if you're watching these, I'm posting these hopefully on Sunday, so it's this week. This Friday night, there's a reprieve from the eclipses in Aries. So it's like a spotlight. So I'd like you to use that Capricorn rising, and I'd like you to use the kind of impetus of a full moon. And I'd like you to highlight for yourself what is important about your home. What does that look like for you now, as you stand now? That might be different from before. That might be different in the future. But when it comes to your sense of privacy and belonging, and how you create space that helps you feel safe, how do you go about that? What are you grateful for? And what can you feel lucky for? That would be a great way to work with this reprieve of a full moon. Aries does lead from the head. Aries is really bold, and Aries doesn't really ask very many questions before diving right in. So there's something that I like about this kind of feeling for you, Capricorn rising, that has you maybe as like the instigator of a safe space or a safe home. There might be something around the idea of that not possibly being something that was always available to you, or that wasn't like trial and error for you as far as like building something and maintaining it. I will throw this into the mix too, that I'm not specifically talking about bricks and mortar. In fact, probably not really. We can talk about those sorts of things, but those sorts of things aren't accessible to everyone. That's a fact. The idea of having a regular, safe, stable home environment is absolutely not everybody's experience in life. And so when I'm saying things like security, safety, privacy, this is your feeling of that. And you can base that feeling like you can base that in your chart. The fourth house is the one that's the base node of the chart. You can find that center in your body, in yourself. It doesn't have to be to do with the the building that you live in. It's a precarious time that we're all moving through, and I think that probably for you Capricorn rising with this dragon's head in the fourth, there might be feelings of like a rattling feeling, maybe of instability in the bricks and mortar of which you live. And so we're going to work with that, and we're going to remember that we're going to be better than ever. And I'm going to really show you my empathy for that instability. It's a horrible feeling to have, and it's one that I know very well. And the center of you is the thing that we want to develop, that sense of safety in your body. I'm giving you advice from a very interesting place in my life. It's a moment of reflection. And yeah, that's all I'm going to say. It's just very interesting for me to see what advice comes out as I give these readings, and what advice I need to hear for myself. Let's get you some tarot. Let's have a look at what else might I discuss with you. I think that's the most important at the moment. We are going to be entering into eclipse season after this full moon, so after this reprieve from the dragon. The dragon's going to be gobbling here, there and everywhere. But I will say that, yeah, I'm going to leave that until 2 weeks from now, Capricorn rising. I am going to say that I think that you're going to be really, this next eclipse season is going to be really fruitful for you. Yeah, that's what I believe. Athena is in conjunction with the sun too in Libra. So we've just gone through the equinox. The light is equal on either sides. And now for those in the southern hemisphere, we're going to be entering into a period of more and more and more light. So maybe use that as a bit of a metaphor too. After the darkness and the sort of hibernation, introspection of the period of winter, we're coming out into the brighter sunshine too. So there's going to be some movement. There's going to be some clarity as well around some other stuff that might have been a bit murkier. Mercury retrograde this time around was near impossible for me. I found it incredibly difficult to get anything actioned or get my intent heard. And so that clay is something that we're moving through and away from now as well. Athena is the goddess of wisdom. Remember that, the one with the olive branch, and in conjunction with the sun, down, shining the spotlight on your fourth house of home and roots and ancestry, privacy. I like this. I like that there's something, it feels like a culmination to me, and it feels like you can move forward in your life with a greater clarity. After some sleepless nights and racked with anxiety and guilt and worry, you can definitely feel that, and that's completely within your entitlement. This period of worry and rumination and the thoughts going over and over and over in the mind, and the fear and the anxiety has, I feel, run its course. And you've got some great things to look forward to, Capricorn rising. You've got the beginning of a brand new adventure. It's going to take you a little bit of time to raise the courage enough again to step off. But I think that you'll probably feel it in your body, and it will be a feeling of like physical, like release, a cleansing feeling as well. You know how sometimes when you're holding onto something, it could be like information, it could be the truth that you've not had the courage to say, it could be like the worry of potential, you know, you just, when you're holding, when you set it down or give it out or pass it forward, pass it on, you feel like, twice as light. You feel lighter than you were before. Your body relaxes. So I'm looking forward to that, for you, Capricorn rising. This rumination is coming to a close, and you're going to be able to see the world, see all that gold in this card, in the full card. That's bright, bright sunshine. And that's too enticing to resist. So step off into this next part of your life, this next chapter. And probably from now on, you might do it with a bit more courage and trust for the way that you show love. You're really good at loving people, and your 7th house will really attest to that too. If you're a Capricorn rising, Cancer is in the 7th house of relationships, and that is definitely one of the most loving signs of the whole zodiac. Cancer is the one that initiates emotional intensity, that initiates connection, that shows love and kindness with a real direct confidence. And so maybe as you're moving away from this anxious brain through this sort of lamentation, and that's completely natural for what you're going through, what's changing, maybe in relationship to your ancestry, to your home environment, to your roots, that could be something that is coming to a head or coming to a moment of clearing or clarity or rest. There may have been some tricky conversations that you've had to have or that you're going to have. And yeah, when the dust is settled, and when you kind of you can feel it too, like when you've said when you've not been dishonest as well. That's a really cleansing, clearing feeling too. When you can say to someone with clarity and with honesty, "I love you," and you're full of shit. No, I'm kidding. But like that's you've not done the wrong thing, Capricorn rising. It's been difficult to do, but it's not the wrong thing, I don't think. You want to start this part of your life and apologize where you feel it's warranted to, You can say sorry. You can come back to a feeling too. You can come back to a relationship maybe that was set down for a while, or we're kind of acting from emotional clarity now, aren't we? We're really going to be less self-conscious about ourselves and our capacity to love, or our love language. We're going to learn it and love it. And from here on in, we're going to approach life and approach love with a bit more confidence. There's a lot that you're good at, isn't there, Capricorn rising? There's a lot that you're all over. Give me the instruction manual, I'll learn how to do it. Sometimes the ability to talk about emotions might be a bit harder, but that's all right. That's what life's for. You learn. You learn. Sometimes when we're in relationships, or the relationships that we've been in, perhaps in the past, the different ways that we responded to the circumstance of those relationships, it can have us feeling a bit kind of trepidatious or a bit like trigger shy to enter into anything with somebody else, or to be honest with, to be honest and loving with our literal language, without talking about who we admire and who we care for and who we love. We can resist that urge to do so. We can resist the urge to even show that blatantly, because of some of the other experiences that we've had with disappointment, or with a feeling of like being cast out or not included, or not loved back. But that's a lesson that we absorb and we work through, and we come to the understanding that, nah, I'm totally worthy of love because I'm really lovable, and I give love really, really freely when I want to, not with whoever will have me or whoever will pick up the phone and chat. Happens with friendships sometimes too. You can sort of find yourself in relationships with some people that feel constricting because there's only one version of yourself that's palatable to them. There's only one particular rigid style that they, or version of you that they need you to be in order for this friendship to stick. You know, that's, the older you get, that gets really boring too. Be yourself. Be with people that love the multiplicity of your diamond, Capricorn rising. There's many different facets to you. There's many different facets to each and every single one of us. They're each just as beautiful. We have every sign of the zodiac in us. Every single planet, every single asteroid. We're many varied, and we're all the same. And that's beautiful. You included. That's it. Love you. Happy full moon in Aries. Yeah, it does feel like a reprieve. We are entering into eclipse season after this, so we're going to batten down the hatches. Don't you worry, nothing to be feared or frightened of. We're going to roll with it. You can get your birth chart read by me if you haven't already. They look like this. I will read it to you on Zoom and send it to you in the post afterwards, along with your birth cards. If I have read for you before and you'd like another one, head to my bookings page. I've just published a series of new journeys that I've been practicing over winter. And so if you've been wanting to have another reading with me and unsure perhaps of how or what avenue to take or what to ask, maybe reluctant to ask because you're a bit bashful, head over to the bookings page. I'm pretty direct with the descriptions of these. They're quite simple. But there might be some song lyrics or imagery or keywords in there that you're like, that's what I want to talk about. So you can book in with me there at umaruby.com. You can head to Buy Me a Coffee, and this time I've actually set up a membership tab on the Buy Me a Coffee, so you can pledge a monthly payment you could subscribe to this channel to keep me doing this work. I am edging towards you to probably offering me monetization, and I'm reluctant. I'm not sure if that's something that I wish to accept or not, just because I know how maddening I find being sold to at all times. Funny to say that during an ad at the end of this reading. Anyway, you know what I'm saying. If you'd like to support my work regularly on the reg, you can do so at buymeacoffee.com. I'll be with you in 2 weeks. We're going to discuss the eclipse in Libra, very important one. Beautiful potential abounds in this eclipse. It's happening at a very impertinent time in Australia's history. An eclipse of justice, an eclipse, a rewriting perhaps of justice is what we can all look forward to. So I'll speak to you in 2 weeks and we'll prep. Bye. Hello Taurus rising, welcome to your horoscope for the full moon in Aries. This is happening on Friday the 29th of September at 7:58 p.m. if you're in the southern hemisphere with me. And if you are, I'd like to remind you that you can look to the eastern horizon that night. So at 7:58, 2 minutes to 8, the moon will have just risen. So it'll be fullest and just sort of above the eastern horizon. And it's going to be, because it's close to the horizon, look even bigger. It will be a sight to behold, I guarantee it. So enjoy this full moon in Aries, which does feel like a bit of a reprieve. There's a break in the momentum at this full moon. And the reason for that is, if you want to think about the last 18 months. It's a long time, but maybe from November of 2021 until now. That's further enough to look backwards and forwards. But there's been a story that is rapidly reaching its crescendo for you, Taurus rising. The dragon has been in your first house, the house of the self, the soul's rising intention, you, what you're here for. And the dragon's tail has been lingering in Scorpio over this time, which is your house of your relationships, your lovers, your nearest and dearest. And if we get on the back of that dragon and we chase it, we know that wherever the dragon's head is a deluge, an influx of energy, extra attention. And the dragon's tail, we experience a shedding, a release. So there's been a multiplicity of lessons that you've been learning about saying goodbye and about relationships ending and about release over the past 18 months, since about November of 2021. And in that time, you have gleaned so much more information about yourself, about who in fact you are, what you're here for, what your beauty looks like. And it's been a really, really powerful period of time for you, Taurus rising, a time that I'm really chuffed that I've been able to talk you through. I started doing these horoscopes just as we entered the eclipse season of Taurus and Scorpio, and it's been wild. Now, the dragon's head has moved into Aries, and so there's going to be eclipses on this axis for the following 18 months. If you remember, in March of this year, we were sowing some seeds in Aries, but then we had an eclipse the month after. There was 2 lunations in Aries. This is the 3rd lunation in Aries this year. And we're in this process of the handing over, the changing over of the eclipse axis. The dragon's head has its sights set on Aries. And so there's things that you have learned about yourself that you're going to carry through into an even deeper part of you. On the side of you that is sort of front facing, and the parts of your brain that consider who you are, think about who you are, that are conscious of you, the you of life. I can only imagine what you have gleaned from the last couple of years and what you've been able to learn about yourself through potentially some very difficult shedding in your 7th house. Saying goodbye is an incredibly difficult thing to do. It's probably one of the most difficult things that any of us can develop the courage to do. But hopefully with that encouragement of the dragon's head and that power surge to your sense of self, you've been able to foster a sense of support in your own company that you can rely on. And maybe take the offer to take it that little bit deeper into your 12th house in Aries. The 12th house can be a really magical place. It can also be pretty scary. It's hidden. It's the hidden work, the hidden realms before birth. Think about it that way. It was the sign that was rising before you were birthed, right before. Perhaps you were in the womb, in gestating, about to be released as this sign was rising. In some traditions, it can relate us to our past lives, something that I don't feel that I've got the qualification to speak on so much yet. I'm learning as much as I can about that sort of stuff. My interest is about this life, right here, right now. Absolutely, it is comforting for some people to think about different journeys and different lifetimes and times when they may have been here before. And there are some experts on the topic in that field. I'm not one of them. And my interest does remain on this earthly plane. As much as I like to space out and to journey and to dream, I also like to take what I've learned from my 12th house and turn it into something real in my life. So this is what Aries represents for you, Taurus rising. Unconscious, dreamland, soundscape, all of that magical, deeper layer of being. There's going to be further eclipses in this house for you, and the dragon's tail will be encouraging you, inviting you to shed potentially some shackles from your 6th house. This is the clearest way that I can probably read this to you, Taurus rising. Libra for you is in your 6th house of repetition. Traditionally, in Hellenistic astrology, it was the house of servitude, of bondage, of slavery. So I think that what you've come through, what you've really done so much brilliant work over the past 18 months at least, in order to reconcile grief, reconcile saying goodbye, sayonara, I'll see you later, to people that we love very dearly, feeling that shedding that almost feels like out of your control sometimes, taking the influx of importance and energy into your 1st house, yourself, taking that further into your 12th, and the tail coming into your 6th to unleash those binds, those shackles, whatever you've felt tethered to culturally, physically, mentally, spiritually. Look forward to that being destroyed. The next 18 months are going to be profound for you, Taurus rising. It feels really like a celebration. As it stands, Athena, the goddess of wisdom, the namesake of Athens, has conjoined the sun in Libra. So they're the one holding the spotlight into your 12th house. Now remember, this full moon is no eclipse, so we don't have to sort of steel ourselves for anything like that. We can actually enjoy it. We can enjoy the light of the moon. We can enjoy our rituals if we'd like to, if that's something that we enjoy doing, working with the moon, giving thanks, writing a poem, just looking at it. I mean, that's what I do I just love to fucking bathe underneath it. Oh, we should have a full moon party. Maybe after this one feels private to me for you, Taurus rising. 12th house, unconscious magic. I wonder what you can spotlight. I wonder if there's been parts of your psychology that you've been finding a real clearing with, parts of the way that your impulses operate, or your brain, the way that you think about yourself, the way that you kind of feel somewhere in your body that there's something that's being released at this time. There's something that's being told to stand up and be proud. That could be happening for you too. Speaking of pride, Venus and Juno are joined at the hip at 22 degrees in Leo. Exact conjunction. They're forming an exact square with Uranus in Taurus in your 1st house. I love this because this speaks to me so much about whenever there's a square with Venus, it's kind of like more, like what else? Give me more. It's really, really like pleasurable and unexpected because of Uranus. No, Uranus has been in your 1st house and we're on the home stretch of that that time, you know. Uranus takes forever to go around the zodiac, so it's going to be there for a little while longer. But when these configurations happen, when there's these aspects, that's when the energy is highlighted. And Uranus is, as indeed all of the outer planets are retrograde, so there might still be this feeling of like, I think, can I? That's how I feel at the moment. There's something's going to pop for me any second, though, I can tell. But Venus squaring Uranus in your first house, there's something unexpected about pleasure. There's something unexpected because of Juno there about connection, about commitment too. Your fourth house is your home, your roots, your privacy, your ancestry. This is where Venus and this is where Juno is. There's a healing quality in your fourth house that's occurring right now, and it's shooting up its power to Uranus in your first house. This revolution of self, perhaps that the dragon has encouraged in you. It feels really seductive, and I really like it. And if you can work with it, I mean, I know how I'd be working with that kind of energy. Tra-la-la-la. I'll get you some tarot and then we'll call it a day. I hope that my explanation of this stuff is clear. I think I'm a bit clunky, I'll be honest with you. Taurus rising, I'm finding things a little bit trickier to say than normal. This feeling of accomplishment in your own company, this feeling of like looking around what you have created for yourself, created of this life so far, looking around and being really effing proud of the grit and the commitment that you've made to yourself over this time is really showing up in this astrology, in these cards, Taurus rising. You've found the way through. The doorway is open to you now. If you can sort of keep that equilibrium going, you don't have to be fervent about it. You know, take it as slow as you want. I know you will. But this doorway is open to you, and what's coming through it is love. What's coming through it is a huge sense of warm, loving support. There's someone that you can think of, as I describe this person, who has empathy coming out of their eyeballs. They are awash with that feeling of sensuous kind of loving support. They want to listen to you. They want you to tell them how they're feeling. They want to fill your cup up with some pleasure, with some excitement, with some joy. And they're kind of in this feeling of like they're a bit like they're not an authority on the whole thing, even though you really respect their opinion. This is a celebration that you're going to be having with them. This doorway, this portal that's open to you, this gateway into perhaps your 12th house. Maybe assess your dreams. Who comes to you at this full moon in Aries? This is possibly who I'm talking about, because they want to sit with you and they want to support you and congratulate you for the incredible amount of work that you've done to process this sadness, to move forward, to move ahead, to start again. This feeling of like contentment in oneself is the only thing that we can really rely on. And for some people, that sounds like a selfish remark. That sounds like tickets, like there's other things to think about. If you have a predilection for being incredibly self-effacing and tormented and at ease with your life on the inside, this is what I'm talking about. To be friends with yourself, to be proud of yourself, and to be unafraid to say, I'm really proud of you. That doesn't make you up yourself. That doesn't give you tickets. That doesn't make you self-obsessed. It's a hard thing for people to say, really hard, especially for kind, caring souls like yourself, Taurus rising, for people that have been through a bit of a baptism by fire over the last 18 months, at least. But I see it. It feels like there's like a lot of gold. A lot of gold, a lot of warmth. There's a lot of family in this space for you. I think at the end of it all, when you sit back and you reflect, you recollect what it all was for, a great big smile is going to spread across your face. And I see it as being a really old face. So many wrinkles, so much happiness, so much sparkle in the eyes. It's all worth it. And you've done such a beautiful job. So at this full moon in Aries, that will be lighting up your 12th house, preparing it for some eclipses to occur over the next 18 months. I want you to keep your eye out. Who is this? Who is the King of Cups to you at this time? Who loves you and who wants to share that love with you? Much love to you, Taurus rising. That's your reading for the full moon in Aries. Speaking of charts, this is what my birth charts look like. I'll draw you one up and I'll read it to you, and I'll give you a birth card spread. If that's something that you've not done yet that you'd like to do, you can head to umaruby.com and book yourself a place with me under the First Timers tab on my bookings page. If I have read for you before and you're looking to have another reading, head to the Back for More section. I've just published a new selection of different readings that I've been practicing over winter, and I'm ready to share them with you. So they'll include astrology, they'll include the transits of the current sky and what's going on, and also specific tarot spreads that I've been really working on to answer your questions. So go and see if there's a keyword in there or some song lyrics or some images that stoke your interest, and book yourself another reading with me. I'd love to see you again. You can tip me at buymeacoffee.com/umaruby. I've also set up a membership tab on that. Nothing flash, but if you are in a position where you can pledge a little monthly offering to support my work, support these horoscopes coming out, then I'd be grateful for that. That's an option. I'm moments away from potentially this channel being monetized. I've got the counter of how many viewing hours I need to have before that happens, and it's getting quite close. I'm undecided if I want to do that because of my absolute disgust and resistance towards all forms of advertising at present. I'm really grossed out by it. I understand that that's how folks earn money from independent content like this. And it's not their fault, but the ads themselves, I don't know if that's something that I want to align with. So if you subscribe to Buy Me a Coffee, then I won't. No, I'm kidding. Let's talk about it further, because I want to get some growth with this thing happening. I love you heaps, and I'll speak to you in 2 weeks. We're going to talk about the solar eclipse in Libra. We're going to talk about releasing ourselves from the shackles that bound us. It's also happening at a very pertinent time in Australia's history. The solar eclipse in Libra happens the day after we vote to change the constitution. So I'll speak to you then. Bye. Hello, Virgo rising. Welcome to your horoscope for the full moon in Aries, happening on Friday the 29th of September at 7:58 if you're in the Southern Hemisphere with me. And if you are, I'd encourage you to stick your head out the window at 2 minutes past or 2 minutes to 8, 7:58, and look to the eastern horizon, because the moon will have just risen. So it will be at its fullest just as it's sort of sitting near the eastern horizon. So it'll look extra big too. It'll be really pretty. It's also a reprieve. It's a moon that should potentially be eclipsed. However, it's further enough away from the dragon's head that it will not be at this time. We're entering into eclipse season after this full moon. The dragon's head is in Aries, the dragon's tail is in Libra, so there'll be a solar eclipse 2 weeks after this one. But as it stands, the geometry of the whole thing, this moon wiggles through into a clearing. So on that topic, we are thinking about this house quite fervently for you over the next 18 months, Virgo rising. So Aries rules your 8th house, which is how our resources are intermingled with other people. It's how we receive things like inheritance, how we deal with our taxes, how our resources are intertwined with that of the other. It also has a lot to do with intensity and grief. So the idea of our energetic field being interwoven with somebody else, the contracts that we feel that we've signed with other individuals can show up here too. So if you cast your mind back to March 22nd of this year, there's a horoscope for it. You can, if you're watching on my website, you can scroll down to the first horoscope for this lunar year. So we're kind of at the midway point. We planted some seeds way back when in March 22nd. We were thinking about Aries. We were thinking about your 8th house of your commitments, how your collaborators, how your energy is interwoven with other people. And we were planting some seeds. A month after that in April, there was an eclipse. So already a rewiring of that part of your life. Now, consider it a spotlight. So the asteroid Athena, I should say, the one with the olive branch, the goddess of wisdom, is conjoined with the sun right now at this lunation. So consider it that the sun and Athena are spotlighting the moon, spotlighting this house. So who's in there? Who can you be grateful for? Who do you need to shed some more tears for? Who are you supporting, and who supports you? Yeah, we're entering into a pretty profound time, eclipse-wise anyway, Virgo rising. A lot that we'll need to let go of in terms of our values, our individual finances, and a lot that's sort of showing up for us about those things and how they interconnect, how other people's resources are interconnected with our own, how we process things like grief. I think that I want to give this moon its separation from eclipses. We'll talk more about that in 2 weeks when the time has come. But right now, I want you to think about Aries. I want you to think about leading from the head. I want you to think about initiating. Perhaps there's something about you, Virgo rising, that initiates these sorts of intense connections. There's something in you that feels quite unafraid to go there and to make those commitments, maybe with people that have more fear than you. And so at this full moon spotlight, I would align myself with what I know of Aries and how the Aries qualities show up for me in my life, how I can feel that I am bold to make these sorts of commitments with other people, how I in fact use my resources to aid others, how I feel quite unafraid to put some skin in the game for something that I believe in is another thing that could be showing up here too. And use this moment. Enjoy the energy of the moon. Enjoy standing underneath it. Enjoy the fact that there is no eclipses. And do think back to March of this year. Think back to what was being seeded or way back when. And think about, if you've got diaries, go over them and read how you were read what was going through your mind, read what seeds you were planting, and then use this night to give thanks. If things have grown there for you, beautiful. If the eclipses didn't short circuit, beautiful. The eighth house is a really difficult definition for me, and it sort of chops and changes and goes here, there, and everywhere, as they all do. But I think as I sort of am developing my knowledge and learning from many different people and reading different definitions and different teaching styles, and also how I've been learning it too is retrospect. So I'll look at the different definitions of the different houses, the different aspects and transitions, transits, and I'll look back over my life and think to myself, how did this show up for me? What, if that's the case, what's this definition mean to me? And so when it comes to the eighth house, I do think about little death, which is an orgasm. I think about the intensity of connection in that kind of scenario and its kinship with the release of life and the grief that follows that, saying goodbye to someone that we'd much rather not. In some definitions of the eighth house, it can have a relationship with our psychology too. A lot of folks that are good at the hardest stuff in life will have planet placements or points of emphasis in their eighth house. People that can work with intensity, people that can work with that kind of face-off between one soul and another, or help people through the difficult processes of life's bigger moments. That's why we can be thankful for the eighth house too. It doesn't feel like it's, gorgeous. In fact, it probably might feel a bit sort of confronting if it's something that you'd much prefer not to talk about. And so for that, you can probably take the financial advice of the eighth house if you'd like to think about things like how our resources are a collaborative process with other people. If we're building something with someone else, what does that look like? And what are the checks and balances of that? And how does that operate? Again, though, it's Aries in there for you, so I still think that there's something of you being the one to initiate this sort of process. If things have been difficult at the moment in that area, Virgo rising, then I'd like for you to use this moon as a night to kind of howl that out. You've got a relationship with the moon tonight, on Friday. You can tell the moon anything you like as well. They'll receive everything that you've got to give. I know that for a fact. So if there's been some frustration financially in the way that those systems are operating at home or in relationship to the people that rely on you, you can let those frustrations out at the moon. You're not dishonoring or you won't frighten the moon if you need to yell. The moon can bring out incredible stuff from us. The depths can be dredged by the light of the moon. And it's a really safe space to let out some anger. When I think about Aries, I sometimes think about anger. I think about their ability to feel anger quite instantly and get it out and then move along. For other people with different configurations in their chart, maybe for a Virgo rising, it might be a little bit more difficult for you to get out some anger. So I'd like for you to register that is okay, and that there are pathways and avenues and strategies that we can develop in order to get our anger out without harming or confronting anybody in our life that we love. But if you need to yell at the moon, because you're not disrespecting the moon by yelling. The moon will take everything that you need to give. They'll never reject you. And if it's something about needing to get just some tension off your chest, sound off at the moon. You have my permission. I'm going to pull you some tarot. I might like to just make a little mention, Virgo rising, of something a little more cosmic too. So Venus and Juno are in conjunction in Leo at 22 degrees, which is your 12th house of your hidden work, your unmentionable work, private spiritual ritual, forming a square with Uranus in Taurus in your 9th house of academic spirituality, of publishing spirituality, putting forward knowledge, traveling, seeking a teacher. And so I see a square from Venus, and it's kind of like, more, please. There's a real sensuality with Venus in the square. And there's something unexpected that I kind of feel here as well. So maybe as you're journeying and as you're releasing some of this pent-up build-up of emotion, anger is an emotion, and you're not to feel violent for having that emotion. It's how you work with that emotion and how you find the outlet to let that out. That's the difference. That's where we need absolute responsibility for ourselves and our actions and the ways in which we choose to let out that emotion. That is non-negotiable. No acting out or lashing out at anyone that you care about is going to be overlooked in my book. That's your responsibility. But the emotion can't be suppressed and hidden away. So, yell at the moon. It sounds whack. Do it. I mean, check the gate, make sure you're not going to have people calling the police. But if you've got the space, get out there. There's this feeling of rubbing two sticks together, maybe. I feel like you're sort of waiting for something, and you've been waiting for it for ages. Virgo rising, and all of this, maybe this financial talk in this reading has pissed you off a bit because you're like, I can't even think about this at the moment because I'm over it. I'm really over it. I wanted, this isn't growing, and I wanted it to grow, and it's not working. That's why I'm just mindful. I'm just going to register that as a possibility. The Five of Pentacles is a funny card because it's 5 stars. It's a top rating. But if you look at the image, it's something that we're not invited to. This feeling of being shut out or blocked off or limited from a sense of success. Why does it have to be so hard is what keeps on coming to me right now, Virgo rising. I am so over it. I had a beautiful, beautiful chat with my mum last night. Incredible, incredible chat. I was so grateful for it. Really, really was. She talked a lot about herself in the chat and this idea of being the working poor is the way that she described it. For the longest time, my mum, beautiful, worked for corporation after corporation after corporation. In the days she was Glamatron, she'd sell makeup for Dior, and then her, as her values were sort of becoming too hard to ignore, she'd change companies. So she worked for the Body Shop because they were sort of environmentally, sound, until she realised they weren't. FYI, just don't buy Body Shop. It's lies. Long story short, this feeling of being the working poor was something that Mum brought up with me. She was like, darling, I'm so proud of you, and I know that it's difficult what you're going through right now, but you're growing something that you own. And people like us, working for other people, shilling their wares, will keep us in a place of poverty forever, because that's the way that the system is built. These corporations are earning squillions of dollars, and they force their employees to call themselves partners. I don't know if you have heard of that, but a Starbucks employee is forced to be like, I'm a Starbucks partner. It's like, you are not a partner if you're earning minimum wage. This is a long way of saying that if your nose is grinding, I feel you, and I'm really, really proud of you for going the distance. I'm really proud of you for earning a buck. Shit, that's, we're all going to do that in this life. We all do. If you're at a point where you're feeling that this 5 stars, I that's what they told me to do. Work. Why I'm broke, financially, spiritually now. It's breaking me. Then I want you to know that you've got full support right now, and that this is one of the most important cards to work with in the tarot. It's tricky when it shows up. Holy moly, it is. But the answer to this card isn't, the door's open, if only you knew. No. Sometimes the answer to this card is like, F off. I don't want to be a part of whatever it is you've got to offer. 5-star what? Like, don't need it. I'm going to spend my time finding a strategy that is going to have me feeling effing embodied, in charge, and ready. So I'm going to give you some specific instructions at this full moon in Aries, Virgo rising, because we've got the Empress card here, and we've got Venus in your 12th house, dreams, squaring Uranus in Taurus. I want you to write down what happens in your dreams on the night of that full moon. Please write it down, because in my research for these readings, seeing as how it's halfway through, we've had the new moon in Aries, so I was like, okay, what happened? I read some diary entries of my dreams, and they were pretty profound. There's a gateway that's waiting for you, Virgo rising, and it might look really different to what is expected for you, or what other people told you you should do, or what you think you should do, what you've been doing so far. But there's opportunity here. And I tell you what, it's spooky when you are running on crud, when your bank balance is like hovering over zero. I get it. I know what that feels like. Like, it can give you such a state of nervous tension. But when you can move your life to a place where you're earning money from something that you really believe in, and that you're not selling and keeping yourself in a space of being the working poor, that feeling, that shift, there's nothing like it. I'm hovering near that feeling at the moment. I've got to change gears, and I've got to keep going. But I tell you what, the language around corporations, around selling, around capitalism, retail, buy, sell, all the advertising, all of this, that's changing. It's also proven to be highly, highly untenable as a system that can continue. So what happens to you in your dreams at this full moon in Aries? And how can you use that as clues to where you're going next? That's your reading. Yeah. Big one. I'm going to shill you my wares now. If I've not read your birth chart yet, they look like this. So head to umaruby.com and I'll draw you one up and I'll read your chart specifically from your time of birth and I'll post it to you in the mail after, so you'll have the hard copy along with your birth card tarot spread. If I have read for you before and you've been thinking about that you'd like another reading with me but you're just not sure what that would look like, head to my bookings page. I've just published a series of new tarot readings that I've been putting together and I've been practicing over winter, and I'm really into them. And they'll include astrology, they'll include what's currently happening in the sky at the moment and what's triggering your chart, and also these specific tarot spreads that I've developed for myself. So head to the Back for More tab on my website. You can tip me at buymeacoffee.com/umaruby. You can actually also subscribe to my channel over on that page now if you're in the financial position where you can afford a monthly registration to support this work, the horoscopes every 2 weeks, then there's an option over there as well if that's something you'd like to do. Much love to you, Virgo rising. That was a deep reading, and I hope that it was valuable for you, and I hope that I didn't cross any boundaries. I love you very much, and I'll speak to you in 2 weeks for the solar eclipse in Libra. So this is the first eclipse, the first moment of shedding in your second house of your coin, your values, your access to money, what you believe in, what you hold dear. Can you see what's about to maybe occur here, Virgo? I can. Yeah, I like it. If you have any questions, please write to me. Take care.